Hi there, this is Dave Allen, and today in Focus we have a show that'll really beat the band. I guess you might say today's program is kind of up in the air.
Folks, only 1 foot. I wonder if Ron knows what he's doing tonight. Look at that, folks. 1 foot down, he's got his hands up. Only thing on that airplane right now is the 1 foot, his right foot. Now he repositions himself as they get ready for their next pass out here.
In Focus today, we're going to blow off some steam. I think it's fair to say you'll get a bang out of today's show.
What is Rich's incredible pyro got set up right now? Coming right after it. You can see that airship right there. Oh, it's got power to fire. Oh, you're talking about war. Oh, man.
I beg your pardon? Wait, let's see that again. I think I get the point. Ah, yes, summer's but a fond memory, but through the magic of television, we're going to roll back the hands of time and relive those lazy, hazy, crazy days. Today in Focus, we'll have a visit with the Lake County Farm Heritage Society. And while we're in the Lakewood Forest Preserve in Wakanda, we'll visit the Lake County Museum and check out some of their exhibits.
Here we have, at the museum, we have a collection of advertising dolls, the Wendy I. Wright Advertising Doll Collection. And again, it's a very, very fun way to link the contemporary to the historic. Advertising dolls were begun at the turn of the century as a way for companies to identify their products. There was a lot of imitation going on, and people would be very disappointed. They'd buy something, think they were getting another product. And so literacy rates were very, very low then. A lot of people couldn't read and write, so it was kind of a marketing way to identify products.
And we'll take a look at the Lake County Family YMCA's 3rd annual Airfest at Waukegan Airport.
The runway here, she starts her level off, cruises right on down to about 75 feet off the deck, and right on down our shoreline in the Great Lakes Fireplace. This is Daisy out of Harvard, Illinois. Rolling that airplane right on her on. Isn't that beautiful? Very, very graceful.
You and I will hop aboard a Midwest Express DC-9 and take a champagne flight. And we'll have exclusive interviews with Dave, Phil, and Susan Dacey. They're the Flying Daceys. For the next hour or so, keep your TV locked on this channel or suffer the consequences of dull television syndrome. Could never happen on this show. Stay with us as you and I get in focus.
You picked a better day to be here, obviously. We really had a fun time yesterday. We got real wet.
It's going to get you to hit you.
We had about 400 today.
Did you really?
It was outstanding.
Considering it rained all day.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jan, it rained all day Saturday, but we had a great time anyway, didn't we?
Price. Then just stick the little silk handkerchief down inside the hole, like so, and then, ta-da! You're a real magician. Now, be sure to keep your thumb over the hole, okay? Otherwise, it does give the whole thing away. Yeah. But, you know, sometimes I really want to go one step beyond, and I want to amaze my friends. And you know what I do? I take the hole off. You know, I can see you're amazed, all right? I sometimes put this in my pocket, but my wife is really getting angry because she's finding all those holes in my pocket and has to sew them back up.
these are the Bakehouse Players. Once a week we get together in the small town of Hebron, Illinois, and we just get together and jam. There's about 35 musicians. They play everything from trombones to accordions, and we just have a heck of a good time every Tuesday night.
Right, Harold, you play the concertina or the accordion, and what's the difference between the two instruments, and what is it that you call yours?
Well, I really started out on the accordion first, and then I went to concertina, and years after when I retired. I grew up in Wisconsin, and it was the old-time music, and I still loved old-time music, and so that's when I went with the concertina. Now, the difference between the two instruments is the concertina is a diatonic, which means you have a push and pull. You have two notes that are different when you push or when you pull. It's a little more difficult to play than the accordion, because the accordion is called full chromatic.
And when's the last time you saw a real live blacksmith?
They keep the metal and put it up in the storage.
Lay
Set it on there and let it sit there for a while. Let it warm up and get inside.
Well,
And Bruce, how long have you been blacksmithing?
5 to 6 years now.
How did you ever get into that? A young guy like you, I always picture a blacksmith as an old guy with a long beard and gray hair.
Well, I started in a group called the SCA, Society for Creative Anachronism. They reenact the Middle Ages. I took a one-day class through them, and I wanted to learn how to make knives and swords. Well, I went out and found another place to take a class, and got interested in it. To this day, I still haven't made a knife or a sword, and I fell in love with doing ornamental work. I plan on taking a little more schooling, as soon as I can afford it, to learn the ornamental as far as gates and railings and banisters.
Nobody's taught me how to play.
And for those who wanted to stay a little bit drier, lots of things going on inside the Lake County Museum, too.
Goes down and there's the elevator. Put it on the side then.
And then it comes down the chute
Right.
directly into the bin.
Right.
And tell us about your system over here in the cycle we just saw.
Well, that's for harvesting ear corn out of the field. It's brought in wagons, brought into the driveway of the crib, dumped into the elevator, and from there it goes up the elevator into the storage. That's about it.
He originally made it one for his wife out of labor of love. In fact, I just saw them last weekend. Very nice couple.
What? Is that a real spinning wheel? Is she turning straw into gold? She sure doesn't look like Rumpelstiltskin. We'll return to the Farm Heritage Society show, and we're going to see some of the steam equipment, too, in just a little bit. But first, let's see what's happening at the 3rd Annual Lake County Family YMCA Airfest. Phil, this is the third Air Fest, but in reality the second annual Air Show, right?
Yes, sir. First year we just did static display and a dry run, basically.
Now, why did you decide to go with a full Air Show?
Well, that's really what the public wants and expects, and we were able to contract with Phil Dacey and Dave Dacey and Associates and get an excellent show together and at an affordable price to offer to Lake County residents.
Phil, this is not exactly summer anymore. Pretty chilly trip coming down here?
A little chilly out in the open cockpit biplane, but definitely a pleasant day, beautiful sky, and I think we got this kind of sky forecast for the weekend, except I think we got a lot nicer temperatures forecast, and of course for the air show itself, we're only in the air for a few minutes at a time, so the temperature isn't nearly as critical for most of us. This airplane we got in the background is a Boing Stearman, which is the original military version of the Stearman airplane that you'll get a chance to see our brother Dave Dacey flying here on during the air show. He'll fly both Saturday evening and then again on Sunday. And during that point in time, he'll actually have a fellow out there walking around on the outside of the airplane. He's an actual wing walker. Hollywood stuntman Johnny Kazian will be out there. He'll start off between the two wings on the airplane. He'll crawl around up there. He'll take off and land between the two wings, and they'll do aerobatics while he's out there between the two wings, and then he'll climb up, go up on top of the airplane. They'll have a ladder type assembly up on top of the airplane, and he'll climb up on that, and he'll do passes where you'll even see him standing on his head while above the Stearman. So it's going to be quite a show, and of course they'll be doing full aerobatics and that type of thing while he's doing it.
Backwards for single, and Jersey comes by a little closer here. Now he's down there. Flying on top of the wreck, and there he is. Look at that, folks. Going on to Captain Warren's right. Himself into the rack, going the other direction now. He's going back down from the top wing to the lower wing. Obviously the turbulence is too much for a headstand today, folks. And it's out of the javelin between the wires there. Dave Dacey, Johnny Keys here in the Super Stearman. Show line. Dave Dacey's by the airspeed middle. We're seeing about 160 to 175 miles an hour. They're coming right on down our show line. It's Dave Dacey and Johnny Keys here in the Super Stearman.
Hey, what a super job. We had a rare opportunity of talking with Dave and Johnny before the show. All right, standing in front of their Super Stearman aircraft, we have stunt pilot Dave Dacey and wing walker Johnny Kazian over here, and you guys are pretty good friends, I hope, huh?
Best in the world.
Let's talk to Dave first of all. Dave, how long have you been flying?
God, I've been flying, seems like forever. I don't know, 20 years, something like that.
How long in this Stearman? This is your airplane, right?
In this particular Stearman, we've been flying this one now since 1979. We've had two others before that, but this is the best. With this big motor in it, and modification makes a good air show airplane.
Let's move over to Johnny for just a moment. Johnny, are you really telling me the truth? You actually get out on the wing and you stand there while Dave is doing some fancy flying?
Well, only with Dave Dacey, yeah. I'll be out on the wing from takeoff to landing. He's got the front cockpit all nailed shut, so I can't get in there anyhow. But David, without question, the finest Stearman pilot in the world, and I mean that sincerely. This man, he built this airplane from scratch, and it was basket case, in other words, and he has built such good characteristics into it, and he takes it up and exhibits that every time it gets off the ground. It's just magnificent.
Now, you're telling me, Johnny, you would not walk wing with any other pilots?
No, really, the brother love has got to be there, and the brother love between Dave and I is right there.
Now, learning to fly an airplane, most of us have a handle on that. You got to start somewhere. But what about learning how to walk a wing? I mean, are there wing walking schools, Johnny? Where do you learn how to do that?
I've been asked that all over the country. My son, I've trained my son. My son is probably take my place when I retire. I'm 60 years old now, and I've been this is my 38th year in the air show business. And when I no longer feel safe about doing it, then probably my son will take over.
Moving back over to Dave Dacey over here, I talked with your brother Phil, who'll be doing the announcing. I talked with him during a press conference a couple of days ago, and I asked him what he thought about your sister Susan's flying, and, well, he was pretty happy with it. What about you?
Oh, yeah, very impressed. I think every show she does, she improves. I mean, same with everybody. You know, you got to learn from your experiences. But, yeah, I've the first few times you watch somebody, especially a family member go out and fly an airplane, you're a little concerned, but I've got now where I can sit back and enjoy and watch it also.
Any close calls in the Stearman?
Nope, not in this Stearman. We had a little problem earlier this year out. We were out in Iowa. And we dumped all the oil out of the engine, and well, ask John how he looks when he looks over and sees oil all over the airplane.
Well, Johnny, how do you react when you look over at the side of the airplane and you see oil on the airplane?
It's really funny,
It belongs in the crankcase,
You're right, but I'm wearing a helmet and goggles, right? The goggles about as big as your glasses, right? I look over and I was hand talking to Dave, is there a problem? Because we were circling real low over the airport, and he pointed at the windscreen, the windshield, and it was covered with oil, and he said, my eyes match my goggles for a second, as far as wide-eyed, oh my God, and then it's just a matter of coming back and cleaning the whole bird up again.
And we got into some, a couple of weeks ago or a month ago out in Cleveland, we ran into it starts raining right when we were to take off, or when we were flying at the time. And we were talking major rain, and John was out here on the javelin strut at the time, and he had quite a job, raining at 160 miles an hour. Seems like somebody throwing buckets of rocks at you. And he had to shimmy over, and it was a slippery walk back to his perch on the. See, we won't land or take off with him on the top of the wing in case we have a problem. The airplane would nose over. So he lands and takes off. This is first class accommodation for Johnny Casey right there.
No frills flight.
Air show aerobatic routine is reminiscent of the 1930s, 1920s. Barnstorming aerobatics here. That is what.
And we'll have a chance to talk with Susan Dacey a bit later. Also, we're going to take that champagne flight I talked about during the intro, and we're going to talk to the pilot of that Midwest Express DC-9 and take a walk through a giant KC-130 as the third annual Lake County Family YMCA Airfest continues. But first, let's head back to the Lake County Museum and the Farm Heritage Society Tractor and Steam Show.
Flying, of course, in all the other areas of aviation, everything from the FAA to airline flying. I have a show I know. That's a 4-point hesitation.
Let's talk, before we talk about the Forest Preserve itself, which of course is what the museum is in, let's talk about the museum. And for those who are not familiar with the Lake County Museum, and sorry to say a lot of Lake County people fill those shoes. They just don't know the treasure we have. Let's talk a bit about that.
Yeah, I think, first of all, I'd like to really welcome all Lake County residents and all citizens who enjoy this type of activity to the Lake County Museum, which is located on the south side of 176, just west of Fairfield Road in Wakanda, Illinois. The Forest Preserve overall is involved in a lot of things: recreation, education, restoration, and preservation. And the one thing that I think has the least amount of exposure right now is, in fact, the education and preservation perspective. And that's what this museum is all about. And has a tremendous amount of variety to offer to citizens. And I think the more that they find out about it, the more demand there's going to be for it.
This museum is unlike many other museums. I find things in here which are relatively contemporary. Matter of fact, as I was doing a video tour with Stacy Pine a while back, she was pointing out some computers from the 1970s which are antiques.
That's correct. In fact, honestly, the same thing just happened to me here yesterday. I was here for the first day of the Farm Heritage Association exhibit, and I was sitting with Jan and a very good friend of mine, and we were looking at this flashing of various cards, and there was Mickey Mantle, who was a famous New York Yankee slugger in the 50s, and I don't consider myself antique, but I was looking at it and saying, oh, that's supposed to be old and from a long time
You remember
ago.
him?
Yes, very well. He was one of my idols.
I have to admit that, too, but I mean, really, my grandfather told me all about Mantle, but no, we remember him, and I guess that's relatively contemporary history.
Yes, it is. But you hit it on the head, is that it goes from what was relatively contemporary all the way back. There's a huge boulder in there with fossils that's 470 million years old. As a person who grew up not far from here, my family moved here in 1946, I've been to this preserve right outside that surrounds this museum hundreds of times, literally, over the last 30 years. So, well, ever since it's existed, to my knowledge. And very frankly, I'm as guilty as anybody else in ignorance of, even when the museum first came to be, I wasn't aware of just what a fantastic resource and asset it is. People go into the city, to the Museum of Science and Industry and all the rest of them. Here's something right in our own backyard. You can 5-10 minutes, maybe half an hour from the farthest point in Lake County. They could just have a heck of a day. Their kids would be enthralled, and they would be. I'm 50 years old, and every time I walk through there, I like to read the things, and I really get turned on by it.
Okay, Gerald, you want to tell us what you're driving here?
Well, we're driving a 1946 John Deere A tractor. It's a two-cylinder tractor, and it's a gas engine on this particular model.
And you're hauling around people today, aren't you?
Yes, that's what we're doing today. We're all kind of volunteers out here, and we're volunteering our paid customers into the show here.
You're with the Farm Heritage Society?
Yes. That is correct.
How long have you been with them, Gerald?
Just this year. It's only 2 years old, and I really didn't know about it the first year, or if I did, I just didn't get into it.
Tell us about this locomotive of yours. What do you use this for?
Right now I'm going to use it for thrashing. That's about all. Thrashing and solid rolling and freight. And working on it.
Now, Harold, this is all steam-powered. It's got no other kind of engine on it?
All steam.
Now, is this thing powerful?
Yeah, it's powerful. Plenty powerful.
What are the advantages of steam over, say, gas or diesel?
Well, I don't know. I think it's more economical and more steady. More power. I think. But the diesel man would say something different.
We'll return to the Lake County Museum and the Lakewood Forest Preserve and enjoy more of the first annual Lake County Farm Heritage Society Tractor and Steam Show. But first, let's return to the third annual YMCA Airfest at Waukegan Airport. And Susan Dacey, sister, of course, to Dave and Phil Dacey, is leaning against her Great Lakes right now, but most of the time she sits in the left seat of an American Airlines aircraft. And how many years have you been flying commercial, Susan?
I've been flying with American for 9 years now, and flying altogether for just about 19 years.
Now you're leaning against a Great Lakes aircraft over here, and it's a rather small airplane as we take a look around it right now. Is it rather uncomfortable to fly?
No, it's actually a real joy to fly. A very nice airplane, very maneuverable, very comfortable to sit in and fit in, and I enjoy it.
Now your brother Dave built his Stearman, is it correct, from the ground up. Now did you build this one?
Rebuilt, yes. Actually, as of this year, this aircraft flew at this air show last year, but between then and now, it's gone through quite a rejuvenation process. All the fabric that you see here is brand new, and paint is new. A lot of work went on during the year. Went through basically every portion of the aircraft and rebuilt it.
Now the difference between this aircraft, it's a rather small airplane, and it's a DC-9 did you fly?
A 727.
A 727. Now, is there a world of difference in maneuvering the two different airplanes? Is it like day and night?
Well, basically the 727 is obviously bigger and different in a lot of aspects, but nonetheless they're both airplanes, so they both, when you move the aileron or the controls, it still turns and goes up and down just like an airplane's supposed to. So similar in a lot of ways, and of course they're built for very different purposes.
How long does it take to just learn how to fly this Great Lakes?
Well, I had a background in flying aircraft. We call it conventional gear, in other words, with the tail wheel and wheel in the back versus in the front. So with my background of flying Piper Cubs and the Stearmans and such, it was a very simple transition.
Now, I don't want this, Susan, to sound like a sexist remark, but you're a woman captain of an airline. Is that something that is really still a man's domain?
Oh, I wouldn't want to say that. I'd say it's just, it's like anything, you know. If it's something you love and want to pursue, you go at it at that rate. Sure, at this point there's more men at it, and always probably will be, but it's just a field I love, and I'm glad I'm there.
I would assume you got the encouragement of your family when you decided that's what you wanted to do?
Well, I've always been around aviation, so sure, a lot of support. My father's wonderful about it, and I'm around an aviation family, so that definitely tends to help.
How did you learn how to fly? Where did you start?
At Dacey Airport, right at right in the home front there in Harvard, Illinois. My parents' airport. They started about 50 years ago. Started there in a Piper Cub.
And one final question, Susan. How many days out of the week do you fly commercial for American?
Typically about 3 to 4 days a week.
And I said it was going to be the final question, but I have one more. What can we expect in the air show from you today?
Well, what I do in this airplane, actually this aircraft is a replica of that used in the late 1920s by the original barnstormers across the country. And I just try to give folks a taste of what it was like back then when the folks would land out in the pastures and the backyards. Of course, I choose to land on the runways. But I do the old-fashioned barnstorming loops and rolls, hammerhead turns, cubinades, barrel rolls, and such. And I hope everyone enjoys it.
She goes right on around there. She does a 5/8 loop there. She's doing what is known as a reverse cubinate entry there. Right.
It's a beautiful, crisp, early fall day here at the Lakewood Forest Preserve outside the Lake County Museum in Wakonda, Illinois. Joining me right now is Pam Newton, and I know you wanted to talk about the museum and what's coming up for the fall and winter, but first, you have an awfully long title. Why don't you decipher it for us?
Thanks, Dave. I'm chairperson of the Environmental Education, Public Relations, Information, and Museum Committee of the Lake County Forest Preserve.
What does that all mean, Pam?
It's the longest title that anybody has.
I'm not sure we can get this in on our wide-angle lens. We should have pulled out a little bit wider.
You know, and there's no good abbreviation for it because every sector of the department wants their due entitlement.
I want my due. Where is it? I need it.
David, the first part is the environmental education aspect, and being a teacher by education, I really enjoy that part of my committee chair responsibilities. And environmental education isn't only going to Ryerson Woods, for example, or going on a nature walk. It's really enjoying the outdoors and all the benefits that our forest preserve system has that might be as easy as a picnic. The public relations aspect, we've all been busy, of course, with the latest referendum for the bond issue. And not only that, but making sure that people know about our forest preserves, where they are, how to get there, and our map system is an especially popular feature of our public relations aspect. And then finally, as we wait for at the end, the museum aspect of my my committee's responsibility is, of course, to promote, enhance, and further grow with the museum here out at Lakewood Forest Preserve. And that is a really fun aspect of my responsibilities, because I've learned a lot about museum history and about the attractions that we have here go far beyond taking a walk through some memorabilia. It's really about exploring our culture and looking into the future of Lake County.
You know, this Lake County Museum is really very unique because, well, there's nothing else like it in Lake County, Illinois, of course. But you find things in the museum that you would expect, artifacts from the turn of the century, indigenous to Lake County and, you know, generally the Midwest, I suppose. You find things in the museum that I frankly was very surprised at. Computers from the 60s and 70s. Those are museum pieces now. It's unbelievable.
We have platform shoes from the 70s. I won't say who contributed those.
Dick Clark, he needs them, you know.
But you know what else is also exciting, Dave?
William Shatner. And yours truly.
Live long and prosper. But the aspects that I think that the public might find in generally attractive is not just looking at pieces, but also you can hands-on participate in how well pumps used to work here on the farm, or pressing buttons and seeing and hearing part of the multimedia exhibits that we have here. Or it might be climbing into one of the carriages that is for touching.
Fun.
Isn't that great? So it's not just for looking, and it's also for everyone of all ages. And I think that's really what I wanted to promote more than anything is the Lake County Museum. Although here we are on a beautiful fall day, in a few more months we may have some snow and it may be a little bit too cold to go out and do a nature walk. So I would like to invite everybody to come out to the museum and do the inside part of our Forest Preserve education and really recreation, which is browsing or hands-on and taking a look at some of the most wonderful treasures we have here in Lake County any time of the year, rain or shine or snow. Come on out to
I don't even want to talk about snow.
I know.
But we can handle it.
It's true. And we have a lot of extra programs coming up. People can always call or look for the signs. We have Native American exhibits and information's coming up, seminars. We have a wonderful Star Watch astronomers group that meets out at the museum. And we have rooms, you know, for groups to come on out. And so there are also special events that some of the viewers might be interested in attending, as well as just coming out every day to enjoy the facilities, and the surroundings are gorgeous. I think we're competing with the geese today, but it's nice.
Okay.
It's nice. That's part of my environmental education part of my committee. But really, it's a wonderful part of being a Lake County Forest Preserve Commissioner. I'm a commissioner from the 18th District. As you know, many of you know, we're segregated into district representation, and so it's truly a privilege for me to be promoting this fun part of Lake County Forest Preserves.
On this wall, we address the geographic significance of Lake County. Kids are real weak in geography right now. Everybody has seen that repeatedly coming out of some of the reports on education for the United States in general. This is a nice way to show the kids a little bit about where they live. We talk about the oceans and immigration, how people came across the oceans to live, and then about the difference between immigration and migration. We have the Great Lakes here that we can show the kids, the St. Lawrence Seaway, the movement in to the United States using the Great Lakes. We have just some really fun facts about the Earth in general, like the fact that water covers 3/4 of the Earth's surface, the Earth's diameter. We talk about the Earth being part of a galaxy that contains 100 billion stars, so that people can get the relationship between the micro and the macro of the world and our community. After we talk a little bit about the fossils, we move into the glacial period here in Lake County. And we have an actual mastodon bone and a mastodon tooth that was found here. It's often difficult to understand a time period that was 10 to 12,000 years ago. Newer research is showing probably up to 18,000 years ago. We have a paleo point, which is one of the oldest kinds of arrowheads or spear points that can be found here in the United States. And After we talk a little bit about the mastodons and the paleo people that lived here, we move into the different cultures that have been here for thousands and thousands of years.
Joining me right now outside the Lake County Museum in Wakonda, Illinois at the Lakewood Forest Preserve is Museum Director Jan Gallimore, and there are a number of things, Jan, I know you wanted to talk about, one of which is the National Demonstration Project. Am I getting that right?
Right. It's the National Research Demonstration Project, and that is by the American Association of Museums. Our museum submitted a proposal back in December of 1992 to participate in this study, and basically the study is, the purpose is to look at how museums are changing to meet the needs of their constituents and becoming more meaningful to their communities and being more public-driven. And we submitted a proposal because we felt that it would help the museum attain its long-range goals. And we had 3 specific goals that we wanted to accomplish, but we're one of 12 museums that will represent the study nationwide out of a field of 300, so we're quite honored. Our 3 main goals with regard to the study is to, number 1, in the area of scholarship, look at more of the recent history of Lake County. Look at the reasons for Lake County's development in the 20th century, and by virtue of our location between Chicago and Milwaukee, and given our geographic location, the county developed because of very specific reasons. And we want to look at that from a scholarly perspective and involve people who are experts in that area of study to help us with that. The second main goal is to look at the diversity of our community and ensure that our exhibits and our programs reflect the ethnic, the cultural, the socioeconomic, the gender diversity that is in our community, so that we fairly reflect the culture that is in Lake County. And the third goal that we have with regard to this project, once this is all said and done and once we've studied everything, is to look at how we will reinterpret the museum's exhibit galleries to relay this information in a way that is exciting and a way that the public wants. And so we're looking for a lot of public involvement, and I might invite anyone who thinks this is intriguing and would like to get involved. We'll need a number of volunteers to help us, so be certainly welcome any input from the community.
And you touched a bit, Jan, on volunteerism, and of course this nor any other museum could operate without a lot of volunteer help. And I understand the Lake County Museum was recently the recipient of a volunteer award. Is that correct?
Correct, Dave. We received the RSVP, the Retired Senior Volunteer Program of Lake County's Site of the Year Award. And RSVP is a department of Lake County Community Action. There are over 300 seniors that volunteer for RSVP all throughout the county. And every year, RSVP holds an awards banquet where several of the volunteers get recognized. And then the volunteers also submit their sites for awards. And our volunteers this year submitted the museum for this recognition, and we're quite honored to be chosen as the Site of the Year, which is the most favorite site in the county that volunteers choose to volunteer at. So we're very honored by that recognition. And our museum has between 40 and 200 volunteers at any point in time, depending upon the level of programming and the events that are going on. Each year, over 15,000 hours of volunteer labor is dedicated towards delivering museum services, for which we could not pay people to do, and we could not operate without such tremendous community support.
And the final point, Jan, you wanted to talk about, this is really important, it's the accreditation of this museum, which really gives it a more prestigious position, correct? Correct.
The museum will soon be accredited by the American Association of Museums, and this is a process that we have been working on for quite some time now, nearly 12 years. Museums, just like schools and colleges and hospitals, are accredited, and there are certain standards for the museum profession. Those relate to collections management, educational programming, governance, volunteer management, archival management, and just about any facet of the museum's operation. There are certain procedures and standards that are set for the profession. We have worked with the guidelines set forth by AAM for the past several years, and we'll have the review team from Washington, D.C. coming out in the spring of 1994. And we'll have tremendous amount of community celebrations once we attain that great status, and it's something that we can all be very proud of. And again, we would not have been able to do without the support of the museum volunteers, our Forest Preserve commissioners, other Forest Preserve staff members in all of the different departments, and most importantly, the community that comes here and values the services that we provide. So we're looking forward to sharing that with everyone.
Let's return now to the Lake County Family YMCA's 3rd Annual Airfest at Waukegan Airport. And as promised, we'll take a look now at that giant KC-130 air transport. And I think with just a little bit of imagination, we can get the feeling of what it was like for Jonah when he had that experience with that whale. We're in a great big KC-130. Is that what it's called?
This is the KC-130 T-30 model. The dash 30 stands for stretched model. This is 20 feet longer than a normal C-130.
What do you use this aircraft for?
This aircraft is capable of passenger hauling. We can carry 128 passengers on board. We can carry 3 Humvees. We can carry Huey Cobra helicopters. Basically anything that fits on board. If it fits, we'll fly it.
Now this thing's pretty large. You could drive a pretty large vehicle into this.
Yes, you can. You can drive a small tank on board. You can, like I said, you can drive 3 Humvees on board, a couple pickup trucks, probably about 6 or 7 Geo-Tracker convertibles. So we can haul a lot of stuff on board.
Is this aircraft designed for jumping out of?
Yes, we can jump out either our large door at the back, or we have 2 parachute doors on either side after the wings, where you can jump out of. We can also throw out pallets. We can have vehicles extracted out while in the air. We can do high altitude drops, low altitude drops, mid altitude drops. Whatever needs to be dropped, we can drop it at just about any altitude.
Did you spend any time in the Middle East?
I did not. I was in boot camp during that crisis.
Kind of lucked out, or did you wish you would have gone there?
At this point, I'm not sure.
I noticed a couple of people have asked about the bicycle hanging on the wall. Can you tell us?
Yes.
Looks a little out of character.
Believe it or not, it's not out of character for our crew. A lot of our pilots, co-pilots, bring bicycles on board just to keep in shape when we're on the road. This one belongs to our pilot, Captain King. He lives down at Great Lakes Air Base, and he plans on riding his bicycle home after the air show here. But when we go away, we usually have 1 or 2 bicycles on board. There are times that I've seen about 50 bicycles on board the aircraft at one time.
Okay, the time has come. Let's you and I hop aboard that Midwest Express DC-9 and take a champagne flight.
Serious.
But before we get all strapped in, let's take a walk up forward and see what makes it all tick. Joel, is this DC-9, is it a difficult airplane to fly? Is it as automatic as most people think it is?
Well, I think the automation is it's enough to make the flying very accurate. If you want to let the automation fly the airplane, it will fly it very well. But the aircraft is so stable and is so well built that it actually just kind of invites you to hand fly it, and a lot of times we do. We don't use the automation all the time. We use the autopilot for cruise mode a lot, and sometimes we'll use it for approaches. But I enjoy hand flying the aircraft. It's a very stable airplane. It's very responsive, and of course, as any aircraft, it requires training to understand the airplane fully and to get acquainted with it. But as an airplane, it's the best airplane I've ever flown, and it's really a pleasure to fly this aircraft.
What's the safety record of the DC-9 generally, Joel?
Well, I think in general it's been very good. In fact, they just did what's called a high-time airframe inspection on our aircraft. The FAA was watching our mechanics do what's called a heavy D-check on one of our aircrafts, and they were very surprised to find out how structurally sound the aircraft was after all these years. Even though this airplane was designed in the mid-60s, it has performed so well over the years that they have determined that the aircraft, as long as it's maintained, can probably have an unlimited life as far as the structural integrity of the airplane, very much like the DC-3, which you still see flying around today. The aircraft skin is very sound and thick, thicker than the Boeing 737s, and that has helped this airplane maintain its good safety record over many years.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You want a waiver?
Please refer to the safety information card located in your seat pocket as we demonstrate and explain the safety equipment on board this aircraft. For those passengers seated in the overwing window access, please take note of the special instructions located in your safety information card.
That looks good.